Namaste. Welcome to Buddha's teaching. My name is Soti Tim. First of all, I'd like to pay respect to the Triple Gems. I'd like to pay respect to the Buddha. I'd like to pay respect to the Dhamma. And I'd like to pay respect to the Sangha. Hello again, everyone. It's good to be here with you all today. It means that we are all still breathing and we are still all functioning and we're still able to cognizing things. So while we are still able to experience life, let's make it a nice and peaceful one for us, for all of us, for everyone around us. So today, right now, as we are going into full summertime, here, most of us, so the weather gets hot and we are experiencing thunderstorms and rain, quite often, which reminds me of one of the sutras regarding, when the Buddha taught about us, when we learn how to cultivate our mind, when we learn how to protect our mind, it's just like we are building the roof, building the wall, building a safe place for us to live in. Doesn't matter what kind of storm that is passing through outside, we are okay inside. Inside our very own place. We stay dry, right? We stay comfortable. We don't let the weather affect us. Whether rain or hot or in the summer heat, or when you are in the winter time when it snows and cold, we keep ourselves safe inside. So that is a simile that the Buddha often refers to protect ourselves within, right? We cannot stop what goes on out there. We cannot stop the weather from not having rain. We cannot stop the weather from getting too hot or too cold. Okay, but what we can do is we can build ourselves a comfortable place where we can protect ourselves from the different kinds of weather elements that will always come, up from time to time. And there, of course, we have windows that we can open to let the cool air in when the weather is nice, right? So we learn to live with the weather. We don't fight the weather. Okay, so when the weather is nice, then we enjoy the weather. Okay, let the air in, fresh air, breathe in, nice and good. When it's too hot, then we stay inside. It's too cold, we also stay inside. When it rains, or we stay inside so we don't get wet, we don't get sick. So that's how it is. That's how the world runs, right? Physically, that's how we protect ourselves. Mentally, it's also the same way. We have to learn how to protect our mind from all the different things that is going on all around us. Okay, the mind is our mind that we are that we is running who we are at the moment. this very mind here is the most important one to you and me, to all of us, okay? Because that's, after all, that's how we recognize things. So this is the most important things that we need to take care of, okay? When the mind is not happy, then when the mind is disturbed, and when the mind is disturbed, then, well, we're not happy, right? So we need to learn. That's what the Buddha's teaching is all about. We need to learn to protect this mind from having issue, from running into suffering, from having dukkha, right? Dukkha, suffering. So this is what the Buddha taught, to look at this mind, to understand this mind, so that the mind is at peace, so that the mind is not disturbed, so that the mind is not agitated. Because as we all know, we go through life, there's always storm brewing or storm erupting all, all of a sudden, from all kinds of source that we encounter. And those are the storm of life that we have to learn how to deal with the different kinds of what we call phenomenon that always happen, that always rise and then pass away, right? When things arisen, what do we do? And then, how do we handle it, in a proper way, so that the mind, so that our mind don't get agitated, right? So that the mind um, don't get disturbed. So the mind that is not at peace, which we call a disturbed mind, right, or a agitated mind, is the mind that doesn't like something, right? And especially when the mind, our mind, of course, we all know, for not all people, but for a lot of people, the mind is in the habit of thinking about the same thing over and over again. Okay, so when somebody says something about you, criticize you or whatnot, or snap at you, one or two words, and then you gonna spin on those words, and you're gonna, we're gonna keep clinging on it. So, and the mind is gonna attach to it and think about it, right? And so that is the reason why, and that is what we call an attachment, right? Attachment to the dislike. And the mind, when the mind gets something, so that is the food that makes our mind agitate. Okay, so for example, somebody say something or do something that you don't like, that we don't like. So it's almost like somebody push a button, right, in a way. And also it's the same thing as I mentioned before in previous earlier episode. That's like a trigger. So somebody trigger our emotion, somebody push the button. Okay, somebody push a button. Now the mind that we do not, if we're not careful, the mind that is not trained, an untrained mind, would jump. When they push a button, the untrained mind react, right? What we don't know for most other people. Okay, so I'm just a lot of time going over similar materials that I went over before, but it's good to repeat many things, because there are new people here who just come across the teaching, And of course, it's also always good to refresh a study. So normally we don't realize that our mind is disturbed, okay? Um, because we identify ourselves with this mind, with this emotion that we have, right? Like when we're upset, we say I'm upset, I'm angry, or I'm sad, I'm worried. So that is the identification right there. The you know, you, the who we are, you are, is attached to to that feeling, is attached to that emotion. So that emotion becomes who we are, right? When we have some kind of feeling arising, we automatically, habitually, we identify ourselves with that very feeling right away, okay? And then we interpret it as a good feeling or a negative feeling, right? A good feeling, but then you are happy. I'm happy, right? Uh, I'm ecstatic, you know, um, things like that. Or I'm angry, I'm upset, or I'm worried. So the emotion and the I, or the self I, is one at that particular moment. Is attached to each other. There is no space in between. That's how we normally go about in daily life. That's how people go in their daily life. Is that whatever that emotion, the feeling, and that's who they are, and that's who we are, right? So that is the normal untrained mind. So that is the mind of pretty much every single human being on this planet. Okay, so as we all know, right? The reaction works very fast. Okay, it's lightning fast. You hear, when we hear criticism, what do? We snap fast, right? We react so fast. Um, we talk back right away. Okay, we trying to make a point, trying to show the facts, trying to show the logic that we are right. Okay, that I am right. Okay, so this is how the mind goes. That's how the mind works for pretty much most of us. Okay, it's a habitual. This is called a mind that works um, automatically, naturally, believe it or not. Okay, this is the natural way that the mind works. But unfortunately, this natural way of the mind, of the work of the mind like this, in Buddha's teaching, this is called the ignorant mind. Okay, now ignorant in this sense does not mean that it's stupid. It does not mean stupid. Ignorant here means that it's a natural default mind that does not know how it works, how itself works. So that's why that mind is ignorant. Okay, the mind does not know how itself come up to be like that. That's why we call it an ignorant mind, and that is the default mind of everyone living on this planet. Okay, we've been doing it. I mean, since this is a natural mind, we've been doing it since we were born. Okay, and for most other people, this is how they live their life. Okay, this is how they conduct their life, all the way from birth to death. Okay, just live with the emotion, um, live by the emotion. Okay, and let the emotion run their life. Okay, so that's the thing. That is the way that most of the people live. This is the way of the natural default mind, which is called ignorant, right? So Buddha's teaching teaches that as long as people live this way, they will either, one way or the other, sooner or later, this natural default mind bring us suffering from time to time. Okay, and suffering can be big, can be small, can be all kinds of flavors, but they will bring us suffering. And sometimes suffering can be very severe, can be very serious. Okay, and because of that, that is the reason why the Buddha said, um, well, there is a different way, believe it or not. Um, the way to understand this suffering that the natural mind uh, bring for us, there is a way out of this. Okay, uh, for most people who cannot, who never question this the very old mind. I mean, there's no blame in this because it's difficult for people to. How can you question yourself, right? Why my mind is like this? It's, when people are mad or upset, they just become mad and upset. They don't sit down and say, why am I upset, or what is this? There's no such a question does not arise. Okay, and that's the reason why there's a Buddha. The Buddha arise is because there is this suffering, and there's a person who question this very natural phenomenon about suffering. Okay, and this is what we call the wake up moment. When the Buddha discovered this phenomenon, this thing, then they said, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here with this mind, with this suffering that we all have, whether it is physical suffering or mental suffering, which we call dukkha. What is this all about, right? So this is why we have Buddha's teaching. This is how uh, we we get to wake up from this ignorant mind. Okay, and there's a way to wake up, but in order for us to wake up to the true reality of the mind, of how this the mind phenomenon is functioning. Okay, we have to be willing to have open heart, open mind, to listen and to study. Okay, to study about this very operating software that is running who we are. Okay, that's what Buddha's teaching is. So whether you can wake up to this or not, that is your chance, that is your choice, but it is up to you to whether you can have an open heart and open mind and willing to have a listen, right? Not to believe. Okay, there's no belief system, just to listen, right? To hear what the Buddha has to say, right? So what the Buddha said is that most of us, we identify ourselves with the body and with the mind, right? When we whatever we do, that's who we are. Well, the ultimate truth is, the Buddha said, that mind, that is not you, that is not who we are, right? The mind is just a mind, but that is not who we are. That sounds strange, right? That sounds kind of, what what are you talking about? So it it will give you a big question mark for those who never heard of a Buddha's teaching before. Say, what do you mean the mind? What is this? What the mind is not me, then who am I, and things like that, right? So, and then, the Buddha went on. If this mind is you, right? Why would you disturb yourself? Okay, so that's a good question. Okay, so if the mind is who we are, why can't we just control this mind? Okay, why is it that you disturb yourself? Why you disturb yourself? If the mind the mind is disturbed, meaning you were disturbed, so why you disturb yourself? Okay, so that's a strange question. Okay, you want to, we all want to be happy, right? You want to be at peace. Okay, but why can't we? Why not? Right? So that is the question. What is this mind that disturbs us? Okay, what is this mind that is, angry, that is upset? For most ordinary people, of course, the answer is no, it's not me. It's that person that make me angry. Okay, it's that person that make me upset. Okay, my mind is disturbed. It's not, I'm not disturbing my own mind. It's that person there that is disturbing me. Okay, be it, the wife or the husband, the children or the parents or the sibling. Yeah, it's that person that makes me mad. It's that person that makes me upset, that makes me angry. Okay, it's that person. Okay, so that is the answer from an ordinary default mind. Okay, so here we go. So the Buddha, more than 2600 years ago, okay, there was a man, right, named um, with the title of Gautama Buddha. Okay, he was enlightened one. He his last name was Gautama. The title, the word Buddha is a title. Okay, he's discovered the truth about this mind, the mind that everyone has. Okay, and his discovery helped millions and millions of people. Okay, when people are willing to listen to what he had to say, and then they all had this aha moment. They say, oh, okay. So those are the people who, after they understand, then that's how people get to liberate themselves by listening to the teaching. Okay, and then it's not a belief system. It's a study. We have to study, and to study we have to listen and to figure out and to find out for ourselves. Okay, and after we find out, we say, wow, okay, this is unbelievable. And, after all of this time, I thought, I am this mind is me, and all that. And after listening to what the Buddha had to say, and then we look at ourselves with what the Buddha said, is it true or not? And then when we look at it, you said it is what that is, um, there, right inside of us. That's who we are, and we we see what the Buddha said, right? We see what the Buddha said, and then and once it clicks, when the lesson clicks, then we said, oh wow, it's this is unbelievable. It's something that is, without the Buddha we would never know, you know, and that the discovery of ourselves is the greatest gift of life. Okay, it's an amazing experience. It's an amazing realization. Once a person discover and got to understand what the Buddha taught, because the job of the Buddha is to liberate us from suffering, from life suffering, right? So once we discover the teaching, the suffering is released. Okay, we get released from the suffering. Okay, that is when true happiness arises. And when true happiness arises, there's nothing else, because we understand, right? So here's the thing about observe, so about the mind. Okay, so one of the most important thing that the Buddha taught is to have to be mindful of ourselves, to observe ourselves, right? Okay, so how do we observe? Okay, have you ever observed that people that people can destroy, if you look outside, people can destroy their own life. Okay, um, people who have issue in life, you know, um, they they are not stupid people. Okay, but they have issue in life. Okay, they're not stupid. And also there are people who are successful, okay, are also not necessarily the smartest people. Okay, but they are successful. Okay, so what does successful mean? Okay, they are successful, but they're not necessarily the smartest person. So there are smart people, okay, who are having miserable life, and there are people who are not so smart but they have successful life. So oftentimes a successful life and a failed life does not depend on knowledge, right? It depends on one important thing. It's the ability to control their own reaction. Okay, so most people lives like an automatic button. Again, when someone criticizes us, we react angrily right away. When someone talks down at us, we defend ourselves right away, right? When someone starts an issue, we fall into that trap. We fall into the game that they play. Think about it, okay? Um, but do you know that when someone can make you react right away, okay, to whatever they do, to the word or they say, okay, and they can make you react right away, who's in control of your emotion? Think about that. Who's in control? They say a couple of words, boom, you jump. Now, are you in control, or they are in control of your emotion? They can make you jump, okay? They can make you snap. Who's in control? Okay? Because when you jump, okay, at the time that you're not the one who choose your action. See, when somebody says something, you react to according to what you feel, right? According to your feeling, okay. When you react to what you feel, it's so you live. In other words, you live under the control of your feeling. You let your feeling takes the lead of your action. Okay. So what that means is that when you let feelings take control, okay, there is that means there's no wisdom in there. Okay, there's no wisdom because um, the feeling when the feeling takes control, there is no thinking, right? So just do this. Ask yourself this: how many times already that a reaction created issue or problem that you experience for many days, weeks, or months after. Okay, how many times already when you have a quick reaction to whatever, and then after that, because of that reaction, the problem carries on and it takes days, weeks, and months, right? How many times already that with just one word you spoke when you were angry, right, make you lose a friendship, make you lose a relationship, or make you lose an important person in your life. How many times already with the one word that you spoke out? It is unfortunate that when we are angry, we think that we are a strong person, right? When we talk back, we think that we are winning, right? When we are showing our instant feelings, we think that we are defending ourselves. But the truth is, we lost our control to our emotion. Okay, a wise person is not a person who's never angry. It's not a person who doesn't get hurt or never has a resentment. But a wise person knows that not all the feelings need to be answered right away. Okay, not all attacks require his or her reply. A wise person sees that not all battlefields need to be entered. Sometimes strength does not depend on unnecessary talking, but on silence instead. Right? Sometimes the smartest thing to do is to be patient. True success does not mean winning over other people, but winning over ourselves. Okay, that's a true success. A wise person or a smart person, does not react. They don't react. Okay, the mind reach is a level of maturity, right? Based on his or her own life experiences and understandings. Okay, life teach them many lessons, so they get to understand. Okay, the wise person knows that a high spiritual mind, a mind that is alert. Okay, the wise person, that person, they usually have what we call like a space or a gap. That comes from cultivation, come from experience, life experience. Okay, they normally have a gap or a space between the feelings and the reaction. Okay, you follow? They cultivate a gap. They create a space, a little one, between the feelings that they have, the quick feeling that rise up, and the reaction. They don't react right away. Okay, they have create themselves a little space and a little gap. Okay, and that gap is like a 2 3 second or a couple of breaths, right? Is a quiet space. It's short. Okay, but this little gap there, that little space between feelings and reaction, is very important. Okay, that little gap, that little space, save him from regret or sorrow. Okay, that can happen in the future, and that's how they learn. That's how because of that they understand that. Most people think that the quick reaction is a sign of being smart, but the truth is a fast, quick reaction and fast thinking are two different things. Okay, fast thinking and fast reaction are two different things. A fast thinker can be a smart person, but a fast reaction belongs to people who live under the control of their own feelings, of their own emotion, of their own ego. Okay, when someone says something that makes you angry, your brain wants you to fight back right away, right? When someone disagree with you, your feeling wants you to defend it quick. Right? When someone looks down at you, your ego wants to show that you are good, that you are not inferior, right? But for a wise person, when they hear these kinds of words or remarks, they remain calm. They give themselves a little space, a little distance from the feelings, and they ask themselves, is a response or reaction worth it? Will the response be useful, beneficial, or will it destroy the future? Will many future will well, will the future thank them for the reaction, or will they regret it? See, that's a question they ask themselves. That's a difference between an ordinary lay people mind and a mindful person. Okay, um, the person who is alert, who is mindful of his or her own feelings, right? Of his or her own emotion, and not being controlled by his or her own emotion. See, um, our reaction is controlled by our emotional mind, right? But most people think that fast reaction is a sign of strong courage. When someone talks bad at you, you reply back right away. When someone criticizes you, you defend yourself right away. When someone hurts your feeling, you want to hurt them back right away, give them back a piece of your mind, right? By doing this, you want to show that you're a strong person. But what's actually happening is you are acting under the command of your own emotional ego, right? Think about it a little bit. How many times already that you yell out angry, but later on you regret that, what you have said, right? How many times already that you send out angry text and wish you didn't? How many times already that you made some kind of decision while your emotion was high, only to find out later on that it was a mistake? The problem is not about how we feel. We are human. We have feelings. We have emotion. You can feel angry. You can feel sad. You can feel happy. You can have sorrow. The problem is when those feelings and emotion becomes you. When you identify yourself with those feelings, right? Take control. They take control over you. At that time, you're no longer in control of yourself. You actually become a puppet of your feelings, which is the puppet master. Okay, your feeling is now your master. During the emotional time, people think that they're thinking, but the truth is they are reacting. See, thinking and reacting are two different things. Thinking requires time to analyze, to consider the outcome, to think about the future. But reacting is just a fast, instantaneous reply, like what you do when you touch a hot stove. You know, our habitual way has been like this. When we experience things through our five senses, we tend to react instantly. But a smart person is aware that reaction often leads to many unpleasant consequences, which create a lose-lose situation for everyone involved. You could lose opportunity, you could lose families or relationship. If you can think clearly, you'll see that if a person can make you angry or sad or worry, that person has control over your emotion. Yes? No. Think about this. If someone says something, but like your spouse, your children, whatnot, like I said before, make you angry, who's in control? Not you. Okay, let's say someone posts something on social media, or someone send you a text message that raise your temperature for a few hours. Who's in charge of your emotional life? Can you see who's the puppet and who's the master? A wise person is not a person who doesn't get emotional, okay, unless he or she is a fully enlightened one, okay. um, but he or she does not let the emotion lead them to decisions such as wrong speech or wrong action. A mindful person knows that feeling flashes like a lightning, but a response is a choice. They have a gap, again, they have a space between the rising feelings and response. The little gap is where wisdom resides, and that's where wisdom arises. Ordinary people with untrained mind do not have this space, okay? Their feelings and reaction are attached to each other. The wisdom that resides in this little space, we know it as awareness or sati. Sati. Okay, that's a Pali word, S-A-T-I, sati. And this leads us to mindfulness. Ordinary people react. Awakened people choose to respond or not to respond. The compound result of this awareness, of this little gap or space between feelings and emotion, are enormous. It results in a life that is full of suffering or a life that is peaceful and serene. Think about it, right? You probably never thought about this. A person who makes you angry or upset has already won over your emotion without using any physical strength. They have won over you the moment you react, the moment you lost control of your feelings. They push a button and you jump. Imagine two people have a disagreement. One person is angry and is yelling at the other person. The second person remains calm. From an outside appearance, it looks like the person who is yelling is a strong person. But the second person who can control his or her emotion is truly a person who is in charge. He or she is not led astray by the feeling, by the anger or hatred. This is why there's a saying that a man who conquers 1,000 battles is not as powerful as a man who conquers himself. There's also an advice that says, do not make decision or commitment when your emotion runs high. This phrase sounds simple, but it has deep meaning. When we have high emotion, be it joy, ecstasy, anger, sorrow, our mind tends to think that it will last forever. It gets caught in the moment and it thinks that the feeling will last forever. But we all know that all feelings are temporary. Feelings arise and fall away. Anger will subside, hurt will become less, sorrow will fade away, but words we have spoken will remain. The decision, the speech that you make during high emotion can and will have impacts that change your life forever. A wise person knows this, and that's why they don't react. They know that the right decision can only be found when the mind is calm. A mindful person knows how to create a little space between feelings and action and reaction. It may appear that a wise, mindful person moves slower than a fast reactive person. It may also appear that they have less feelings than ordinary people. But the truth is, they experience the same feelings. The difference is they understand what those feelings are, their condition, their nature, their impermanence, and therefore they don't let those feelings produce automatic reaction. A mindful person gives themselves a little space, a space that most people never know. When you get a text message or an email that irks you, what do? Most people fire back a text real fast. When you receive an unpleasant comment or disrespectful remark, do you answer right away? A wise person has patience. Silence is a virtue. They know a fast answer will lead to heated debate and argument. The refrain or the gap can save them a lot of headache now and into the future. This is why a mature person does not make decisions in high emotion. When they're happy, they don't make promise. When they are upset, they don't make decisions. They know that not only anger that can get them in trouble, happiness also can. Most people think that smart people react fast, answer fast, but a wise person knows if they need to respond or just to keep quiet. They give themselves time to pick and choose their engagement or not at all. A person who cannot stop and give himself space before reacting lives under the command of his own feelings or emotions. But a person who can stop, have patience, not having quick reaction, give themselves time to think is truly a much smarter person. These are the signs that most people overlook. Silence is not weakness. Most people mistake that reacting with force is a show of strength. If you can yell louder, you show that no one can mess with you, can look down at you. But the truth is not like that. Yelling is not a sign of strength, but instead it shows that you have lost your control to the emotional mind. Let's think about this. If someone says something to make you angry, what is an easier approach? Scream, yell back, or maintain your calm? We all know that anyone can scream and yell, anyone can explode in rage. It does not need training, it does not need wisdom, it does not need maturity because it's a natural thing that we are born with. But calm and peace is a different matter with a reason. Okay? True calm and peace depend on insight. But a suppressed calm builds a storm. A suppressed calm gathers ammunition. A suppressed calm is building a defending weapons to strike back. Okay, so make sure we understand that calmness has its hidden uh, evil thing. The suppressed calm is the clever ego itself. Okay, and this is why it's difficult to see for many people, and this is why we need to learn. Ordinary mind needs to show that he or she is brave and courageous, not afraid to fight. But a mature person does not need to show this. They know that their value does not depend on winning an argument, has one word up on their opponents, or see that their opponents are defeated. Not arguing or replying does not mean that you don't have an answer. but instead you know that it would just waste your valuable time and peace of mind. Most people are mistaken that silence shows weakness, but when some people rather choose to avoid arguments, a smart person chooses not to let their feelings control them. There is a difference in this silence. Although the outside appearance looks similar, this difference distinguishes a high spiritual person from an ordinary one. While ordinary lay people react to events and experiences through the senses, a wise person has the power to choose to respond or not to respond. This is the power that most people never know, never cultivate. So remember this. Silence does not mean that you are weak. It shows that you have awareness of your own mental emotion. It shows that you have the wisdom over your mind. A normal person may win over another by force, but a person who can win over himself shows true wisdom. And wisdom always triumphs in the long run. A wise person can foresee the future. See, a big difference between a wise person and an ordinary person is not about knowledge. It's not about degree from school or skill that you have. It's about the ability to see future result before any action begins. Most people identify themselves with the feelings so that they do or say everything according to those feelings. They hardly ask themselves how their action will produce a result. This is where a mindful person is different. They have a space to observe. When this unwholesome feeling arises, they know not to talk or do anything because they know that that is the work of an unwholesome conditional mind. They are in control. A mindful person is aware that a quick reaction based on pleasant feelings or emotion can lead to regret. An unpleasant feeling can take action that can produce loss, hurtful result. You may win for a moment, but you will lose for a lifetime. Right? Think about this. When you are upset, you may let out some unwholesome words to release your emotional mind of pressure. You may feel good at that particular moment, right? You yell, you scream. You may feel that you won, that you are a strong person. But afterward, can those words make things better, improve the situation, or make things worse? A mindful person always asks themselves these questions first before they speak or do anything. Oftentimes, the Buddha remained silent when he was challenged about things he did not believe deserved answers. Many times people's failure is not because of their capabilities, but it's because of their lack of ability to see the future result of their quick reaction. They choose the instant gratification over the long-term goal. They choose to fight, to argue over a commitment for the relationship. They choose to fight. They choose to go with the automatic rising feelings instead of peace. Not everything you hear requires answer or response. There are times we need to know to choose between being right or having peace. Being right and lose a friend. Being right and sleep on the couch. What is beneficial? A wise person knows that life is not a competition. It's not about right or wrong. It's about the benefit. This is why they pause. They think before they answer, before they respond. They question themselves, where would their answer lead the situation to? While most people live with their emotional reaction, a wise person sees tomorrow. Our life situation is not much determined by just what we do, but it relies heavily on our ability to foresee the future result of today's actions. Anger destroys our ability to think through. Anger is the strongest poison for our mind. It can turn you into someone you never know. It can produce sharp, hurtful words. It can turn a quiet person into a devil. It can make a smart person make wrong decisions. And the scariest part about anger is that we think we are right. We think that we are correct when we are angry. The truth is, anger blinds us from seeing clearly. It prohibits us from right thinking. It only lets us see the running emotion, the burning or hurtful feeling at that moment. It only lets us consume this feeling and cling to it. When anger is present, mindfulness is absent. And when mindfulness is absent, there is no spotlight shining in our mind. The switch is off. This is the reason many people end up with living in regret, in sorrow, in depression. How many people lost their friends because of words? How many people lost a relationship because of a quick emotional reaction? Only after the emotional episode fades away that people realize they have made a mistake. Until we can see that anger is an unwholesome natural phenomenon within that rises and fades away based on condition and it's impermanent, we will continue to function under the control of this emotion, of the emotional mind. We will not be able to create a space between feelings and reaction. Feeling is feeling. No one can avoid it. But reaction to feeling makes a world of difference. On the road of life, if you are riding in a vehicle that is traveling near a cliff, would you let a person in rage drive your vehicle? This is what most of the people are doing when they are angry or upset. They let their emotion control the wheel of their life. They let anger decide what to say or what to do, and as a result, they end up in a wreckage. A smart person understands this very clearly. They know not to say or make decisions when their emotion runs high. When they're angry, they create patience, a space. When they are feeling hurt, they give themselves time. When they have resentment, they pause and breathe. This doesn't mean that they don't know what to do, but they know that making decisions when the mind is calm usually yields the best result. There's a phrase we all should remember. Don't answer your text or email when you're angry. Don't make promise when you are happy. Don't make decision when you are hurt. When our emotion runs high, our intelligence tend to be very low. Smart people knows that when you make decision before your emotion calms down, you will probably live with regret for the rest of your life. Staying calm is the show of confidence. Many people think that talking loud shows strength, and it also sends the message that nobody can walk over them. But when people are doing this all the time to defend their values, it shows they do not know what their true value is. They need other people to acknowledge their value. They need others to tell them that they are good. So when they criticize, they are quick to defend themselves. They need to show that they are right. They're good people. See, for people who truly know themselves, do not live like this. Their values does not go up or down according to people's comment or criticism because they know who they are. Let's say someone accuse you, argue with you, right? So let's say they say the earth is flat. Now, do you get angry? Not likely, because you know it's not, right? You know the earth is not flat. Do you need to convince the person that the earth is round, it's not flat? Do you need to argue with that person? You can remain calm because you know for sure about the truth. So our life is the same like that. When you know for sure who you are, you don't need to show it. You don't need to always reply to criticism. You don't need to please people's opinion. Your value does not change according to what people say. Many people spend their lives trying to prove who they are, trying to show they're good and secure, when in fact they show their level of insecurity. A truly confident person does not need to show anything. They let their action prove who they are. When a person reaches this level of confidence, their silence speaks volume. It's not a weakness. This is a mature person. He or she does not live under the control of the feeling and emotions. He or she knows the emotion, the nature of the emotion, and the rising condition of these emotions. There, I'm repeating it again. They are no longer attached to these emotions, and they can choose what to do when feelings or emotions arise. So, there's a lot in this episode, and of course, I'm pretty sure you probably noticed that part of it I'm reading from my own writing. Okay, so I put this thing together from the different studies that I have encountered and put this together for this episode. So this is another pointer for you all to see and to work with this reactive mind that we all have, the emotional mind that we all have. Learn to take a deep breath, create a gap or a space, right? As soon as you notice a rising feeling. Be smart, all right? Choose wisely whether to respond or not. Because maintain peace with a calm mind is a much better approach to life, right? So the last word is not least is that don't let your emotional ego ruin your life. All right, so I think that is enough for today. Hopefully it's something that you can benefit from. Until next time, I like to pay respect again to the Triple Gems. I like to pay respect to the Buddha. I like to pay respect to the Dhamma. And I like to pay respect to the Sangha. Namaste.